Facing the parking lot, I thought fondly of my beloved old car. Robert, you really air. As I turned toward the voice, Sophia looked at me with a calm expression. My name is Robert, and I'm 26 years old. I joined my current company as a skilled employee with prior work experience 2 years ago. The company is a small programming firm. As a software engineer, my days are spent in front of a computer. Most of my colleagues are also intensely focused on their computers. For someone like me who's not great at communicating, it's the perfect workplace. Today, everyone on the floor is quietly getting their work done, except for this one colleague. Hey, I need to talk to you. This is Samantha. She's 24, younger than me, but she joined the company right after high school. She's been here for nearly 6 years, making her a veteran. She handles administration, accounting, and miscellaneous tasks. She's pretty meticulous at her job, but what a character. Bright blonde hair, perfect makeup and nails, and daily changing perfumes. She's just a different breed. The floor, usually quiet, tends to be lively whenever she speaks to someone. What is it? Naturally, I, who am not fond of communication, find Samantha challenging. We sit far apart, so she rarely speaks to me. What does she want today? Why don't you go on a blind date? A blind date. I couldn't help but exclaim in a ridiculous tone. At that, Samantha burst into laughter. Don't take it so seriously. There's this really cute girl, one of my colleagues. You know? Aren't you interested? Not really. I cut her off sharply. The woman Samantha is trying to set me up with, I just don't feel like we'd be a good match. Ah, come on. Just meet her. Just when I thought the conversation was over, she persisted. I'm not interested in dating right now. I thought I had cut her off sharply, but Samantha was unfazed. So maybe you'll get interested once you meet her. Seriously, don't you find everyday life a bit bland? I've never seen you looking like you're having fun. She said this bluntly. Since she's always like this, her words don't particularly hurt me. I'm satisfied with my life as it is. Besides, Samantha, what are you thinking of introducing someone like me? No offense, but I'm a plain guy. I know it's one thing to say it myself, but it irks me when others do. All the guys around me are so loud. I thought maybe it'd be refreshing to have someone like you around for a change. That was quite an insult. Naturally, my answer was a firm no. But right, it's settled then. This Sunday at 10 a.m., meet at Central Station. You have a car, right? Come pick me up in your car, okay. She had forcefully decided on the time and place. I said I'm not going. It's impossible. Please ask someone else. How about asking Ryan? When I casually mentioned Ryan, his eyes widened and he shook his head vigorously. Robert is the one I want this time. Are you really going to turn down a colleague's request? I won't do your errands anymore. I won't even process your expenses. Are you okay with that? That would be a problem. But just as I was about to complain further, our manager Brandon shouted in anger, Samantha, enough. Good. Brandon finally intervened. Just as I thought this issue was resolved. Robert, just give in and go. She's making too much noise. Followed by an unbelievable continuation. Yes, look, it's an order from the manager. I tried to protest, Samantha cutting off her exclamations. But come on, it's a good experience. Maybe non-assertive men are the trend now. But, as an American man, Brandon suddenly fired up, lectured me for about 20 minutes. I decided to give up. Fine, I'll go on Sunday. It seems she targeted me out of novelty, but I planned to bow out within 5 seconds of the meeting. On Sunday, I dressed casually and arrived at the meeting spot in my beloved car. After parking, I met up with them at the station concourse next to Samantha, who was wearing an even flashier miniskirt than usual. Her hair wasn't as flashy as Samantha's, but still dyed brown. Her makeup was impeccable with false eyelashes, and she wore a long skirt. Samantha was teasing her. "Hey, Sophia, what's with that outfit? You're less enthusiastic than usual. Where's your sexy miniskirt? Don't spill the beans, Samantha." So she usually wears more revealing clothes. "Isn't your perfume too mild today, hey?" "But Samantha, you said, milder is better." "I did say that, but isn't this too mild, right, Robert?" "Honestly, I couldn't care less. I really think we're just too different." "Ah, this is Sophia," Samantha introduced us, ignoring my confusion. The woman introduced herself cheerfully. "I'm Sophia. Very happy to meet you today." "I'm Robert. Nice to meet you." As I mumbled my greeting, Samantha immediately retorted, "Cheer up. Stand up straight. And what's with that outfit? You knew you were meeting a girl, right? You could have put more effort into it." "I should have chosen an outfit for you." Samantha was as loud as ever this early in the morning. "This is my best outfit, though." Samantha was shocked by my blurted reply, and Sophia burst out laughing. Did she just laugh? That's funny. I didn't know what exactly tickled her, but my appearance didn't make her decline the blind date. "Then let's head over to the cafe in Robert's car. We can talk more there." Samantha energetically waved her fist and headed for the parking lot. We arrived at the parking lot and walked toward my beloved car. As we approached, Samantha's face grew increasingly pale. "Please get in." When I unlocked my old cherished car, Samantha screamed. "I had a hunch, but is this junker really your car?" "Calling it a junker is rude. It's an old compact car that I've been taking good care of. Sure, the paint is peeling here and there, and it's faded. It might look ready for the yard, but I maintain it well, and it still runs fine. I'm riding in this." "I can't. It's you." "Samantha, I knew you would say that." "Now, Sophia, you feel the same, right?" Nodding, I was ready to call it quits there. "That's super cute, though." "What?" "Samantha," and I froze. "Wow, it's a two-seater. So cute. It looks adorable with its compact shape and faded color. Can I ride in it?" Sure." Overwhelmed by the enthusiasm, I agreed. Sophia happily climbed into the car. She buckled up and sat up straight. "Hey, Samantha, what's going on here?" "What do you mean?" "Well, normally someone would politely refuse after seeing this car, right?" "It's fine. Sophia seems to like it. But I have no plan." Just as I was about to say more, Samantha's phone rang. "Oh, it's my boyfriend." "No way. He's free to meet now." Lucky. I had a bad feeling. "Okay, I don't want to ride in this car. You two have fun, just as I expected. Give me a break. I can't do this without you, Samantha." I'm not good at talking. As I protested, Samantha seemed preoccupied with thoughts of her boyfriend. It's okay. Sophia will do the talking." "Okay, Robert." Smirking, she leaned in close. "Make sure you get her with that." Samantha vanished into the station concourse at the speed of light. "Where's Samantha?" When Sophia realized it was just going to be only me, she looked a bit uneasy. "She's got a date with her boyfriend, so it's just us two now." "Awkward, right?" "I'll just take you home today." I hinted at disbanding, but Sophia responded, "Oh, that's great for Samantha. She's been looking lonely lately." "Oh, can I go to the restroom? I'll be back in 5 minutes." Though she could have taken the train home without saying a word, I nodded, watching her walk away. When Sophia returned, she seemed like a different person. Sorry, I touched up my makeup. If I had shown up in front of Samantha like this, she would have teased me. The makeup Sophia wore was more natural, almost like she was barefaced. Recently, my makeup has been too heavy. "Oh, how is it?" Weird. Her slightly embarrassed expression was unexpectedly cute. "It's fine either way," but Sophia flinched slightly. "You don't have to force yourself." Then Sophia blushed slightly and said, "Since we've just met, please feel free to point out anything odd about me." Oh, that was quite rude of Samantha, wasn't it? I'm sorry. She didn't mean any harm. Ah, indeed she did tear into my car quite a bit. She's notoriously blunt at work, too. But it's okay. She may speak harshly, but at heart she's a good person. I know that. She's also meticulous at her job, and she even makes coffee daily, keeping each employee's preferences in mind. Saying this, Sophia looked as if she herself had been praised. Are you sure this is okay? Suddenly, just the two of us. Ah, it's fine. Let's go. So the blind date continued. I'm not good at making conversation, and surely if the silence in the car drags on, she will tire of a plain guy like me. I tried to steel myself, but then. Do you want some chewing gum? Water? I brought a variety of things. Do you prefer sweet or salty snacks? What do you like to do on your days off? Her words bombarded me like an unstoppable deluge. There was hardly a moment of silence, and there I was, unable to respond well. Gradually, I began to sink into self-loathing. Ah, this is fun. Hearing that, I blurted out, I'm not looking to date anyone right now. Without any context, I had blurted out my true feelings. I was slightly irritated that Sophia called our quiet car ride fun. I wasn't providing any entertainment. There's no way it could actually be fun. We should end this farce quickly. It's a waste of both my time and Sophia's. At a red light, I glanced at Sophia's face, and she responded with a smile. That's okay. Her smile seemed a bit clouded. Don't be so serious. Oh, are you tired from driving? Should we take a break somewhere? The tense atmosphere lightened slightly. In the end, my statement only seemed to make her more considerate. Feeling unbearable, I suggested going to a movie. Sophia's eyes sparkled. A movie date, yeah. I want to buy caramel popcorn. I had only suggested it because it meant 2 hours without needing to talk. Yet she was excited. I sank deeper into self-disgust. Wow, what's that? Where did that come up before? Ha, that line was funny, wasn't it? That was naive of me. People who love to talk will talk anywhere, seemingly aware of disturbing other people. She whispered in my ear in a hushed voice. It was ticklish. Suddenly, I realized, wait, is she taller than me? Sophia's face was above my line of sight. Oh, maybe it's just her good posture. I've always been a bit slouched. I had noticed her good posture even in the car. As I was momentarily captivated by her posture, she offered me some popcorn. I hadn't really wanted any. Reflecting back, she had offered drinks and chewing gum while driving too. I felt a warm feeling inside. It reminded me of how my grandmother used to show her care. After the movie, the question arose, where to next? I shouldn't be swept away by Sophia's cheerful disposition. I needed to be clear. Sorry, continuing this is a waste of time. I really don't want to date anyone, and we're just too different in personality and everything. I'll drive you home. Let's call it a day. Sophia looked surprised and a bit resigned. Understood. But there's just one place I'd like to stop by before we head back. Is that okay? So, I drove the car since it seemed to be on our way home. Here, the park was a spacious park with a view of the ocean, famous for its annual fireworks festival. It was actually a place I was quite familiar with. Sophia suggested we walk a little, so we got out of the car. Unusually, Sophia was silent. It felt a bit awkward. This bench, it was just an ordinary bench in the park. This is where you helped me, she said, surprised. I stared at Sophia. You're the type who can't leave someone in trouble alone, aren't you? I remembered several instances where this was true. Lost, feeling sick when I spot someone like that in the bustling crowd, I can't just ignore them. Indeed, that's my nature. My beloved grandparents were the same. One day during the fireworks festival, I came here with friends. I wasn't used to the sandals I was wearing, and they hurt so much. It became painful to walk, and I went looking for a convenience store. I told my friends to go ahead without me, but there was no store around. And when I couldn't walk anymore, I sat down here on this bench and huddled up. Then you offered me a bandage. I remembered suddenly. A memory of a woman holding her foot and looking down came to my mind. Wait, that was you, Sophia. You looked so different. I didn't recognize you at all. Sophia smiled faintly. I had dyed my hair black and styled it up, so the vibe was totally different. I see, I said, understanding the drastic change in her appearance. As I nodded in understanding, Sophia continued, I was so moved, but I couldn't ask for your contact info, and I never thought we'd meet again. But there was a drinking party at your company last month, right? As she mentioned it, I recalled a mandatory social gathering that everyone had to attend that day. Samantha called me. It sucked, so we're having our own little party, she said. I was nearby, so I joined early, and there you were, Robert. I was so surprised. I asked Samantha to introduce you. I wasn't just filler then. It wasn't just a random selection. She had been looking for me, and I was the one she wanted. Surprised by this revelation, I found myself staring at Sophia. Unable to stand the tension, I asked a question. Why are you close with Samantha? Upon hearing this, Sophia smiled thinly. My parents are divorced. It felt like I had asked something I shouldn't have. Unsure how to respond. My parents were always busy too. We hardly talked, I tried to reply. Sophia smiled faintly again. Before they divorced, it was really tough. I went off the rails then. That's when I met Samantha. Just hanging out and having fun without thinking about anything. I thought if I lost Samantha and the others, I'd have nowhere else to go. So, I really put effort into my makeup and clothes. I see. Searching for a place to belong, was Samantha that place? Couldn't there have been somewhere else? My grandmother died around the time of my parents' divorce. I used to be sent to stay with my grandmother whenever my parents fought. With both my parents divorcing and my grandmother gone, I ran away from everything. That's why I'm really grateful to Samantha. If it weren't for them at that time, who knows what would have happened. Oh, but I'm thinking of moving on from the makeup soon. If your grandmother saw this makeup, she'd faint, I teased. With that, she jumped up in a panic. Just thinking about it scares me. I loved her because she was so kind, but she was very strict. I see. Your good posture is thanks to your grandmother's upbringing, then, I remarked. As I said this, her spine stretched even taller, and her face turned bright red. I suddenly felt a kinship with her, and my guard came down. My parents were always busy with work too. It was pretty much my grandparents who raised me. I get it. Grandmothers are super strict, but also incredibly kind. I expressed empathy. Sophia's face lit up with joy. That car is actually a keepsake from my grandfather. He cherished it so much, and I wanted to keep it. I turned towards the parking lot, my thoughts lingering on my beloved old car. Are you? Robert, you really are. As I turned toward her voice, Sophia was facing me with a serene expression. You're a wonderful person. You care about your grandfather, and you're kind. I blushed and looked down, embarrassed by her straightforward compliment. I want to wait until you like me back. I finally found you. I don't want to give up. Is there absolutely no chance? Honestly, my impression of her had changed considerably since we first met. For the better. Much better. But then, I suddenly remembered the women who approached me during my student days. As soon as they realized I wasn't what they expected, they drifted away. Give me some time to think. That was all I could manage to say. Months later, sorry for making you wait. I just couldn't tie this ribbon properly. Does it look okay? Sophia twirled in front of me in her dress. It looks fine, but it might come undone if you move too much. Hearing this, she suddenly straightened her back, startled. I won't get too excited, but she gently took my hand. Is it okay if I hold your hand? She looked up at me with those big eyes. I was probably blushing all the way to my ears. Today was our fireworks date at that same park where we had apparently first met. Yes, I had decided to date Sophia. After that day, we parted ways. Sophia was persistent. She'd call or message whenever there was a chance. Somehow, she had managed to set up dates without me even realizing. Samantha kept teasing me, "Sophia has changed. Are you guys dating? Just date her already." Sophia had gradually become more herself around Samantha. I didn't need Samantha to tell me, but by that time, I had fallen in love with Sophia, who I felt comfortable with. Sophia was talkative and cheerful, of course. She never got upset, even when I couldn't speak well. Recently, even the silences felt comfortable. That's why I was worried whether to let Sophia know everything about me as I truly am. After watching the fireworks as we were moving through the crowd, Sophia noticeably slowed down. I looked down and saw that the tops of her feet were red. It seemed the straps of her sandals had rubbed her skin raw again. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Band-Aids with me today. Sophia was supposed to have brought some, but they were nowhere to be found, possibly dropped somewhere. It looked like it would be difficult to get her back to her apartment by train. Maybe this is a good opportunity. I muttered softly, and Sophia tilted her head in confusion, feeling a sudden closeness. I suggested, "My place is nearby. Should we go there?" Sophia reacted with exaggerated surprise. In the months we had been seeing each other, I had never once invited her over to my home. While I had stopped by her place a few times when dropping her off, I had never hosted her at mine. She seemed a bit sad about this. The reason I hesitated to invite her over. It was because, "Wait, is this high-rise yours?" That was the reason. "Wait, you work at the same company as Samantha, right? How can you afford the rent here?" I invited Sophia inside and tended to her feet. "What did Samantha tell you about me?" Sophia recounted as she remembered. "Well, she said you were plain, serious, always brought your lunch, and seemed like you didn't have much money. She even wondered if I still wanted you." What a description. But that was fine. That was the kind of person I was striving to become. I am plain and serious, but my investments have done well, and I have a decent amount of money, enough to buy a high-rise as a tax strategy, I explained. Sophia's eyes widened even more. "Why didn't you tell me until now?" She squeezed out a perfectly reasonable question in one word. Distrust. My parents were successful in business. Remember I told you they were always busy. That meant a lot of money was around. I don't live lavishly, but somehow people find out about such things. People would befriend me, and when they realized they couldn't get money out of me, they'd call me boring and exclude me. I went out with a girl because she said, "I like your kindness," and then she asked me for expensive brand-name goods for her birthday and Christmas. I didn't have that kind of allowance, so when I refused, they'd call me lame and break up with me. Eventually, I realized they were only after my parents' money, and I couldn't trust anyone anymore, I confessed. Sophia looked like she was about to cry. "What about your parents? They handed over their business and are enjoying their retirement abroad. Didn't you take over the business?" A natural question. Maybe it was out of stubbornness. I didn't want to simply inherit my parents' success. It didn't suit me, I said awkwardly, looking down. The business was in trade, involving a lot of travel and socializing, which I found difficult. So, I thought I'd support my parents by learning about investments, helping them from behind the scenes. They probably knew I was struggling. They decided to hand the business over to someone else and told me to live freely. I was told I could just let it be, but that didn't really matter to me. I used all the money I received from my parents for college and job start gifts on investments. Whether it was beginner luck or the payoff of my studies, it worked out. My parents often said, "Why don't you spend more lavishly?" But I've never been comfortable with extravagant spending. My parents are abroad, and we hardly communicate now. But I was loved by my grandparents. Even if my parents were busy and friends or lovers drifted away, I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. Enough of that story. More importantly, Sophia, now that you know the truth about me, what do you think? Sophia looked at me, startled. Perhaps she thought she had struck it rich, or that I had been awful for deceiving her, or that I hadn't trusted her enough to share this for so long. However, Sophia surprised me with a response I hadn't anticipated. I'm not a match for you. A question mark appeared in my mind. I decided to ask her directly, what do you mean? Tears began to fall from Sophia's eyes. I'm not a match for you. You come from such a respectable family. You've experienced loneliness, yet didn't lash out and drop out. You went to university. You even learned how to invest to support your parents and stood on your own without frivolously using their money. I felt like crying too. There have been times when I thought about spending my parents' money freely. Everyone around me expected that of me, but it was my beloved grandparents who stopped me. And now, out of respect for them, I am careful about how I use the surplus money I have. I felt that Sophia had acknowledged this. However, the silence as I pondered this was interpreted differently by Sophia. See, I really don't match up. A high school graduate and former delinquent can't even meet your parents. I'm sorry, I should go. I won't contact you anymore. Leaving a bewildered me behind, Sophia quickly exited my apartment. It was all so sudden that I just stared dumbfounded in the direction she had gone. Pull yourself together, me. It's not like that. I shouted toward the door Sophia had left through and dashed out without a second thought. I might never meet a woman like Sophia again. Images of the Sophia I knew flashed through my mind like a slideshow. Always bright, often laughing, her posture always impeccable, her way of eating so graceful that I often found myself mesmerized. She seemed to feel complex about her troubled past, but to me, she was always beautiful, no matter the circumstances. I wanted to embrace that troubled her. Since that can no longer happen, I want to embrace her for now forever. I caught up with Sophia, and all these words that I had uttered at once became the words of a proposal from me to her.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. but carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.